You're listening to the Fanboy Garage Podcast.
And welcome to the Fanboy Garage. I'm Chris Lasanti, joined by my co-hosts Vanessa.
What up?
And Aaron Varola.
Yo, what's up? It's Miami. I'm hot pink today. What's going on, folks? Welcome to episode 138 of the Fanboy Garage. Another week, another episode. So glad to have you guys with us again. Kong versus Godzilla dropped. We've got some opinions on that and some numbers and stuff like not related to Kong, but other stuff that's happening. Apparently, Tina Turner dropped a documentary. Falcon and the Winter Soldier had another episode, which I thought was pretty cool. What else we got? We got box office stuff. Finally, we get to talk box office again, and some other things that we might have in our pockets and bags and hats and tricks and stuff like that. But let's start off with the box office.
Sure. So, and the story at the box office is Godzilla versus Kong, right? So, it released simultaneously March 31st in theaters where available, and in and on HBO Max also where available, and premium on demand in some places like Canada. And the numbers for this movie tell, I think, a fascinating story, even looking beyond the box office part. But start there. This movie right now is looking at a $32.2 million 3-day opening and a $48.5 million 5-day opening. Now, the first 2 days, it was in about 2,400 theaters, and then it expanded out to over 3,000 theaters starting on Friday. So this is obviously the biggest box office total in the pandemic era. But I mean, if you look at it, just digging deeper and doing some research, looking over at like boxoffice.com, they had a really cool thing because it says this just came in 33% behind Godzilla King of the Monsters, which had a $47.78 million opening weekend. But that was in 1,000 more screens and without theater limit. Like you couldn't, 100% capacity, right, in the theaters.
Wow.
Yeah. And even more impressive is that it's just 15% behind Godzilla King of the Monsters 5-day total of $57.16 million. Again, with 1,000 additional theaters and full capacity in those theaters. That's monstrous. Of course, IMAX, big reason for that, which is what we're seeing more and more, right? With people returning to movie theaters, they're going for these premium viewing options. And that's something we'll get into a little bit before and a little bit later. But this thing also was released in Canada, they don't have HBO Max there. And it was only in like, I think 20% of like the theaters are open there right now. But I think it did something like $3 million on premium video on demand in Canada. And we don't know what the viewership numbers were on HBO Max yet, but this is all really fascinating stuff because here's your first movie where I think 92% of theaters right now are open in the United States with limited capacity, though, in most places, especially the major cities. So here you have a movie where people had the option of watching it on HBO Max or going to a theater to see it. And seemingly a lot of people chose the option of going to the theater to watch it. So I guess the question really is, what does that mean? And what does it mean for the future? Because we've speculated a lot about whether the future is watching at home, theaters, some type of a hybrid model. I actually think that this, as crazy as this may sound, it bodes well for a hybrid model because you have to figure and we don't know if theater capacity was opened up, right? And if there was 1,000 additional screens, what this movie does. The assumption is it would do more, right? It would do better,
right,
despite being available at home. And obviously with limited theater capacity, you figure the people that did go to see it in the theaters are people who were theater goers, right? These are the people that are going to go to the movies regardless. So there might actually be a market to have these movies available at home and available in the theaters at the same time without really hurting either one of those two things, which is something that I never really thought about But it's kind of fascinating, and it could open up new revenue streams potentially, especially if you can get people to pay extra to watch it at home who maybe wouldn't have gone to the theater to watch something like this. So you get your people who would go to the theater no matter what. And now you're bringing in people who may not go to the theater, but would willingly watch it at home. So a movie like that people are on the fence about, this might be the future for something like that.
Like a Black Widow.
Or this, 30. A Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah, but what you're saying about the paying the extra money to stay home, because you're not paying. I mean, are you talking about premium access? Talking about stuff like that? Or you're just talking about paying for the subscription?
I'm up in the air. I mean, when I say paying more, again, I don't know what that means exactly yet. Does it mean a premium access or premier access, whatever, where you pay like a premium at $30, or is it just a matter of like having a subscription to something, which is paying extra in theory, or is it paying a reduced? I'm not sure what that would be yet.
Right.
I think if you have it available on like an HBO Max, you're more likely to get people to watch it at home. And we're not really sure what that means yet for subscriptions and stuff like that. We will know better probably within 6 months to a year as Warner Brothers releases their entire slate on HBO Max this year and in the theaters. So we'll have a better idea of what that means for subscriptions and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I think even charging, right, to watch it at home for the first 30 days, I think there's a market for that, even if theaters are 100% open.
Right.
And why not take advantage of that? I almost think like you're leaving money on the table at this point to not do that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I'm intrigued by the performance of this. I know in my local theater, like there was a buzz, like there were people swarming outside, and I didn't expect to see that. And I was like, is that for Kong? It's got to be. It's like the only new movie out there. So that's pretty dope. But we'll see. I don't. It's funny. I've been talking a lot of smack about when I'm gonna go back to the theater, and it's killing me honestly, like to not be there, because that's like my thing, right? Like when I needed some dude time, like away from the kids, away from like everything that's going on, I go to the theaters by myself, have myself a small popcorn, chill out. I don't know when I'm still on the fence, but I did see that Black Widow trailer.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, I might be going back sooner than I think.
Well, I actually went to see it in theaters.
Yes. Good. See, good pick. You picked up on what I was laying.
Yes.
I was laying it out for you.
First one out of.
Tell us how it went.
To go. Okay. I think my experience maybe is a little bit different because I have the cutest little theater a block away from my house that used to be like a porn house theater. So it's like super tiny. It's like
the seats clean.
Yeah, I think so. It's just an independent small theater, and I live in a community where it's not like an AMC or a Regal, right? Like you're not going to get lines around the block. And this theater doesn't usually order blockbusters, like Kong versus Godzilla, because their screens are smaller. Like you would have to go to a bigger theater to see those type of movies.
I think I know the theater you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've been trying to pinpoint which one it was. Was it the one by the wine bar? It was like down the block from Danny Brown. Well, not Danny Brown. Is that the wine?
No. That one is Cinemark is the one that's down from Danny Brown's, which is one of the best restaurants. I'm so mad that it closed. This is Kew Garden Cinemas, and it's off of like Lefferts in Austin and Queens.
Okay.
Rich history, beautiful small independent theater. They usually show more like drama, like indie art films, like they're not going to show Avengers or whatever. But I think because they just opened on March 26th, so they actually opened, I think, later than they were allowed to. I think they just wanted to come back with like something bigger, to like attract people. So it was my friend's birthday, and he was like, just didn't want to spend it alone. And I was like, okay, let's go. And I really didn't think much of it. And I knew I could watch it on HBO Max at home, but I wanted to see my friend. And we went, and it was an awesome time. And the movie was ridiculous. It was kind of dumb in some places with the
animals.
with the human beings. No, the monster fights were amazing.
Oh, okay.
The monster fights were awesome, but like the humans, like the human element of the story was a little bit ridiculous.
Clearly, I haven't seen it. I've always said this. I wanted to see Godzilla first, and then I've already seen Kong Skull Island.
Yeah.
Godzilla King of the Monsters, but
yeah. And you know what? We got to choose our seats. They made sure to put like 2 or 3 seats between parties.
Cool. So you could sit together, but you were like
right. And then they would leave like the front, like no one would sit in, like basically you were like in a box. So no one would sit in front of you, to the side of you, and to the back of you.
Yeah. It's so like the pods that they're doing, like the baseball here in New York, for the Mets and the Yankees, these 2 stadiums are going to be doing like they're selling tickets in pods with basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So I felt good about it. It was really weird to sit in a theater, eat popcorn.
Did you have a mask on? You have to keep a mask on the whole time?
You don't when you're seated.
Okay.
So I didn't. Because I was also having popcorn and like drinking my soda and eating all the candy. It was just like, oh my God, like you sank into your seat. I'm like eating my popcorn. I'm like waiting for the movie to start. And I was like, this is so weird. But it felt really good. And I was just really happy to be around my friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. So I went.
And that's funny because that's one of the things that's one of the things we talked about right when we were debating about like the future of movies, right? You had mentioned like for you, the theater experience was about like your friends, right? And having a night out, and more so than like going to a theater just to see a movie.
Exactly.
Whereas, for some people it's about big screen and big sound and whatever, all of the bells and whistles of the theater. I can say, as somebody who's been missed or watched the movies at home, like person, right? And I mentioned this before, like the fanfare at the beginning of these Marvel shows, like WandaVision was the one really that caught me. Kind of that's the thing that got me like, oh, I really want to see that like on the big screen. But watching this movie, so I liked this movie. I agree that there's some dumb things with the human elements. There's the famous Roger Ebert idiot plot is used a lot in this film, but at the end of the day, it's a Godzilla versus Kong movie.
Exactly.
Yeah. I thought it was much better executed than even like Godzilla King of the Monsters. Godzilla 2014, I still hate. Almost walked out of the theater on that movie. I won't ever rewatch that movie. And you, Aaron, you really don't have to for this. Like Godzilla King of the Monsters, you probably want to watch, and obviously you've already seen Kong Skull Island, so that's
Skunk.
That's Skunk. Yeah, it's this movie looks great though, and that's the other thing. Like this movie looks much better than Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I thought was overly dark. Like not dark in tone, dark in like literally dark. Like the movie's lit with a flashlight. This movie looked amazing, and it's bright, it's colorful. Hollow Earth was really cool.
Gorgeous.
So I liked all of that. Yeah, loved all of that. But I do, when it was over, I did say to myself, I wish I would have seen that in the theater.
Yeah.
With an audience too, cheering along, and
was it that kind of movie?
Yeah, for me.
I have to say the CG, the monster fights were so cool. And we saw it on the big screen and with the sound effects and like the loud, speakers, and Kong and Godzilla got some moves. They were choreographed. I was telling you guys, like Kong threw like an elbow. There was like a Superman punch in there where like he kicks off a building and like Superman punches like Godzilla, and it's just so ridiculous.
He's
but
been watching UFC, huh?
Yeah, Godzilla has skills. I mean, Kong has skills rather. Godzilla just relies on his
on his hot breath.
radioactive.
Yeah, like Godzilla's
Yeah.
just like, oh, whatever.
He got the short arms. Oh, attack
But
you, bear hug.
he had
Breath.
him in like a headlock, and they like Godzilla was doing things too, and I wonder how I might just put it on like just to see how it looks on my TV screen at home compared to when I saw it in theaters on Friday, but the fights, like that was the best part. Like that's the type of movie
I can't wait to check it out.
that you got to go see. The other point I actually wanted to bring up before we move on to something else, I was looking up what movies came out at the same time as King of the Monsters. Because we were talking about how this one is really not that far behind from how the last movie did. And I think sometimes I felt like in 2019 there was a period of time where everything was so saturated, right? There was a time where it's like so many movies were coming out that like you just could not keep track of like what's new. It just seemed like there were so many movies coming out. And I remember that saturation and thinking like, I just got to pick like one movie and like, that's it. I can't watch everything. And I feel like that might have something to do with one of the elements of how this movie is doing now. And the second element is, everyone wants to get back to some sort of normalcy as well. And also sometimes when you tell people like, oh, it's limited capacity or like it's dangerous to do something, for example, some people want to do it even more. Right. So I think like all of those things come into play. And I was seeing some of the movies that were out at this time. So like Rocket Man was out, at this time. What else? The Brightburn, Aladdin, A Dog's Journey, but nobody cares. John Wick, Chapter 3. So these were also some big movies that I think in a saturated time, people were choosing. Do I go see John Wick 3? Do I go see Rocket Man? And I think some of those choices could have won out against Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Yeah. And I think the other thing it had going against it is that while Kong Skull Island was a moderate hit, kind of a surprise hit, and I think because the Kong IP at that point we hadn't seen it on the big screen in a while, but Godzilla 2014 had a huge opening weekend and then just fell off a cliff because the word of mouth on it was so poor. Even though the critical reviews were good, the word of mouth was not strong. Like that movie opened at $93 million in its first weekend here in the United States and finished at $200 million.
Wow.
Yeah. And it had like a 67% drop in its second week. And it did gross over 500 million worldwide, but like the word of mouth on that was not great. So I think by the time Godzilla King of the Monsters came out, people were a little kind of fatigued on the property. But here's another interesting stat on Godzilla versus Kong. Is that if you look at the international box office, right, it did another 44 million in China, right? So it's already done $137 million in China, right? Now it opened a week earlier in China. And right now, the total global so 2 weeks international and 1 week domestic, it's at $285.4 million.
Yeah.
Wide. Godzilla King of the Monsters finished at 386 million total.
Oh yeah, it's on
right,
pace to,
right.
So, and again, we're talking about big differences. So this is really, I guess, the big question is, what does this mean? Does this mean that there is still a way for people is there still a need or an appetite for people to be able to go to theaters, but also be able to watch these things at home? Or do you think that this is kind of a phenomenon for now because of the timing, the fact that, we haven't been able to do a lot of things, right? So this is the first movie that happened to hit when a lot of the markets have opened up, at least, and people are getting the vaccine and all of that stuff. And do you think this is a byproduct of that? And that maybe long term, having things open in the theaters and on TV and at home is not a solution, because people will eventually start to choose one or the other? Or do you think that this is something that could last?
I think it's something that could last. I think it's both of those things. I think it is kind of a phenomenon, just with all of the factors that we're going through right now. Like, people are getting vaccinated, people want some form of normalcy, like things are opening up, like it's kind of exciting. Like, what do I do? What can I get away with? You know? And also for the people that are like you and Aaron, for example, 100% just like, I'm going to wait for maybe Black Widow, you know, like I'm not going to go right now. Then you guys can watch it at home. It's a smart model because you're just accessing more audience and more people, you know? Yeah. So I think it's both. Yeah.
And I mean, and one of the things too, and not that this is, well, it's not related to movies, but it's related sort of to the conversation, is that WrestleMania, which is next weekend, is going to have 25,000 fans in attendance for its 2 nights. So each night is going to have 25,000 fans. They could have actually put more in the building, but they chose to cap it off at 25,000. And Drew McIntyre was interviewed, and they were saying that, would you rather be in the last match of the first night, you know, like the quote unquote main event slot, or would you rather be in the opening match? Because it's kind of up in the air. He could be in either. And he said, even though it's a title match, he goes, yeah, it's always nice to be in the main event and all that stuff, but he would really like to be in that opening match, because he said that first match, that first person to come out of that curtain after fans have not really been in attendance for a year, it's going to be like, the crowd's just going to be ballistic. You could pretty much do nothing in that match and you're going to get like a hero's reaction.
Yeah.
And I get it. And I just wonder if some of this was like, you know, okay, this is the first big movie out. Like we don't really care. Like, we're going to go just because we're going. Or if this is like, hey, theater goers are going to go to the theater and home dwellers are going to stay home. And maybe, you know, do we want to feed both audiences? I don't really know.
My friends and I were a little giddy, you know, like we were giggling and just like kind of like like, I don't know, we just like walked in, we're like, oh my God, like this is it, you know, like this is exciting. And like we were just really happy to be there. And I think for me, because it was like the smaller independent theater in my neighborhood, and I knew it's like never busy. Like, I don't even know how they stay afloat. I think that made me feel more comfortable. I'm like, I wouldn't go to 42nd Street AMC, even like the one in Forest Hills, you know? So for me personally, a lot of it, what made me feel comfortable is that it was my local, in this independent little small theater, you know? And I wanted to support them also because their doors have been closed and it's such a neighborhood gem. And I paid $11 for my ticket, which is more expensive than tickets usually are in this theater. And I think it's because they usually don't do like big movies like this. So they had to charge a little more because they probably had to pay a little more for it.
Go ahead.
No, I had like a totally other random thought about, because, you know, Zhang Ziyi was also in this movie, and her part completely got cut out with Jessica Henwick's part.
Yeah, I saw that.
Who plays what's her face in Iron Fist? Why am I blanking?
Colleen Wing.
Colleen Wing, yeah. And I wonder if in the Chinese version, if they kept those scenes in there.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
I have to look that up because Zhang Ziyi is such a national treasure, you know, for China. Jessica Henwick is mixed, so, and Chinese people love that. I wonder if they're in that cut.
It's possible.
release
Release.
release the director's cut.
Yeah, I've actually seen hashtags now. Continue the MonsterVerse hashtag, which is pretty funny.
All right.
There's always
Well,
something.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's interesting because sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder, right?
exactly.
And a year ago, I was, we were sitting here and saying, I was like, I don't care if I ever go to the theater ever again. I want to watch all these movies at home. And now here we are a year later, I guess not realizing a year later, we still, are just now getting the opportunity to go back to theaters. But like, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Like, I
Yeah.
still would like to watch them at home, but I'm going to want to get to a movie theater at some point and have that experience again. Maybe I know it's going to be hard to say because financially theaters who were already struggling to begin with have now lost out on a year plus worth of revenues, but maybe in a very bizarre way, it could be a good thing because I do think people were getting burnt out and overwhelmed. And maybe a byproduct of this will be that maybe not every movie will be released simultaneously, but maybe so that theaters don't have that burnout and stuff like that, maybe studios and content providers will be more selective. And you'll get some movies that are theater releases, and then you'll start to use your streaming services for other things. So you're not just completely, oversaturating the market with content, sort of like the old days of theaters, right? Where it was a big event to go
Mhm.
out to the theater, as opposed to just like, a new movie coming out every week type of thing.
Yeah.
That could be a smart way to do it too. That could benefit everybody.
Yeah.
So I guess speaking of streaming, so Falcon and Winter Soldier aired third episode. They're halfway through now.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this episode didn't really do much for me. I liked the,
Yeah, you said you weren't
yeah, I mean, I liked some
episode.
of the fight stuff. I liked with Sharon Carter. I thought that stuff was cool. But overall, I did like the interaction with Zemo. I thought some of that stuff was
Yeah.
cool and funny. But this one I didn't it didn't like grab me for some reason. I found myself getting distracted at times for long stretches during this episode, and not because I had things going on. I just was like
Mm.
going
Not
on
into
the
it.
phone or just not really. And it's weird because we're halfway through, and I feel like, and I feel like we say this a lot. Like so far, we said this with WandaVision too. Like you're halfway through, and it's like, wow, I feel like there's so much to get to.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where they actually wind up here with this.
This was the episode for me, actually kind of the opposite. Like I felt like this episode was like, okay, like now you got me. I love the fighting stuff. Like I love the choreography. I love seeing Sharon Carter like kick so much ass, and that was really cool. And I felt like this episode just like cinched it. And yeah, there's gonna be 3 more episodes, so it'll be really interesting to see where how did this episode end? I don't know why I don't remember.
They were on Zemo's plane,
Right.
and they're off to find someone who knows the power broker.
Right. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it'll be
right?
really interesting to see where the next episode goes from
Yeah,
here. I agree with you. Like this episode was just like, okay, like where are we gonna go now?
I mean, there's a lot of. To me, it was fun because the place that they go, Madripoor, is huge in the comic books. I mean, it's where Wolverine hangs out. There was a lot of good. There were lots of Easter eggs, I should say, and that's what got me really excited, like comic stuff. They did talk about Latveria, which is great because, well, Doctor Doom is from Latveria. So I like that's the kind of shit that like I just with a spoon and fork I'm just like I eat it all up.
Going down that rabbit hole again.
Yeah. There I go. Right. Good. Ryan would laugh at me. But yeah, I mean, you know what's funny? At first, the stuff with Zemo was a little weird for me. Because I was like, oh, is he that like cool? Like, is he that? And then I
Yeah.
was like, then as soon as like, you know, you kind of get like used to it, I was along
Mhm.
for the ride. Like I
Mhm.
loved the back and forth. I love how when he tried to interject, they were just like, shut up, like you're still the bad guy kind of thing, and you better and then you know, you think he's gonna run, and then he ends up kicking some serious ass. And puts on the classic face mask, which I thought was pretty badass.
Yep.
Um but like in terms of like the emotional stuff that I was feeling in episodes 1 and 2, like that wasn't necessarily in this.
Mhm.
I do like the continued discussion of like the actions of the Avengers have had major repercussions on other people's lives. So Sharon not being able to go home because she's a fugitive of the law, like all of those things, and like some of her cynicism, like I get it. Um, and then you know, folks being blipped and all, you know, all of that stuff. Like I think I like how they're setting all of this up. It's not just like a thing that happened and people are just like, yeah, it's all good. Like
Mhm.
this thing is a pretty big deal, and so
Um,
everyone kind of dealing with that.
Yeah.
the episode ends with him finding those beads,
Oh, that's right.
and
How did we forget that?
yeah, I know. I was
With
like,
like
wait,
Wakanda.
yes,
Oh, yeah. That's
yeah,
and
that
there's
was
big cameo at the end. Yeah.
We all forgot.
the Dora
That was pretty dope. Dora Milaje.
Ayo. Yeah, she shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how the
Yeah.
episode ends. That was big because
That was
now
huge.
now it's like they're coming back for revenge, right? Maybe, possibly.
Yeah.
Or to get their own hands on Zemo.
Yeah. I gotta remember. I heard a rumor that like Chadwick Boseman did some other Marvel stuff, and I don't know if it was this or he voiced the What If, because T'Challa is in the What If
Mm-hmm.
series, the animated stuff. I have to look that up. But you know, they don't really release like the cast until the show's like
Right.
about to drop.
Right.
Um like you know, I'm not gonna say he's gonna pop up, but God, that'd be amazing if he did.
Oh
Um
my God, that would be
I
huge.
think I'd be
But
like
hey,
sobbing
let's not go
sobbing.
into
It's Mephisto
let's not
like
go into
dressed up as Black Panther.
that speculation. She's clearly there to get her own hands on Zemo, right?
Yeah.
Now that how she knows he broke out of, the high
There
security
were
prison,
condoms.
there were Wakandans, you know what I mean? They probably are like, okay, this is our opportunity to get like justice for ourselves and get our hands on him. And I
Yeah.
think that's an unexpected. We didn't expect
I totally did not expect to see
any of
a
that
Wakandan.
to come in. Um,
And then when she pops up, I'm like, of course, that makes sense.
yeah.
He said it. I mean, Sam says it. Oh, you know, this dude killed King T'Chaka and set you
Mhm.
up for it. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And then all of a sudden she pops up. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's gonna be cool. That's what
yeah.
I
It's
that's what I loved about this episode
you,
too.
you know, you know what I love about these shows, is that it makes some of the other films so much stronger. Like Civil War with
Mhm.
Zemo is it's a like to me it's always a good film. Sorry, Pablo, I know you don't like it, but um it's always been a fun film for me, and just revisiting Zemo and like you know, kind of building his backstory and all of that stuff just makes that movie so much stronger for me, so much better. Not that say that it's not, but like I just love the like how it just continues to revisit stuff and strengthen it. And you know, I wonder who the power broker really is.
Right.
Right.
You know, is it a villain that we're familiar with already? You know, is it Armin Zola? Is
Right.
it, you know, Ross?
Is it somebody that we haven't seen that might play a role
Yeah.
in the future?
Is it the real Mandarin?
Right?
Mhm.
That would actually make sense
That would be cool.
because that character is going to be in Shang-Chi, which, so these movies of these shows are seemingly going to be tying into the cinematic unit. I mean, the theatrical releases, and since there is no clear tie-in or connection, right, between these characters and anything seemingly that's on the slate, at least right now, like there was with WandaVision, maybe that is something that could be a thing. Who knows?
Yeah.
I just think I have to get back to the mindset that, like, before these shows started airing, I looked at them as they were going to be, these streaming shows that were going to complement, they were going to be part of the cinematic universe, but they were going to complement the theatrical releases, right?
Right.
And I think I have to start going back to that because I got away from that with all the talk about WandaVision and all the things we were trying to figure out, right? And how it was going to connect and all of this stuff. And really, at the end of the day, so far, between WandaVision and now this, it seems like these are expanded one-shots in a lot
Yeah, I
of,
mean, we talked a little bit about that.
that are going to tie in down the road and reference things that we've seen before, but like they're not going to give you these like major revelations, right?
Yeah. So the way I look at this is, instead of being a deliberate farmer and like, you plant your seeds every 6 inches or 2 feet apart from each other, they're just taking all the seeds and going like this, whoosh, throwing it right up into the air. Wherever the wind takes this shit, it's gonna go. And like, I'm cool with that because they're throwing some like pretty cool seeds. Like if it lands, you're like, man, that's gonna be a good fruit when that comes out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you like that? You like that? That's cool.
I see what you did there.
That's what I feel like they're doing. They're just kind of like they're throwing so much up in the air. And then if it dies on the vine, it dies and it's all good. But like, I'm cool with it. I love the stuff that they're setting up with John Walker. Like that opening scene where he comes in and the dude spits in his face and he's like, "Do you know who I am?" And he's like, "I do, and I don't care." It's like there's a lot of stuff being discussed in that episode about symbolism and like icons and pouring, your admiration into those icons and what do they really mean, and they're corrupted, right? So like Zemo's whole thing about Captain America being the symbol that everyone idolized and stuff like that, and all he wanted to find was a flaw. That's when he says to him in Civil War, like, and I've just noticed that as we're standing this close, that you have a speck of green in your blue eye. Something like, "Oh, you are not free from flaws." Like that shit is deep,
Right?
and you can see the way that Zemo's brain works, where he's like, talks a little bit about when he's talking to Bucky about Nazi Germany and all of that stuff, and his distaste and hatred for symbols like the Avengers and these superpowered individuals. I mean, when he kills that doctor, the dude is malicious.
Yeah.
He's like, no more super soldiers on my watch. So they just need to point him in Harley's direction, which hopefully, now she's a terrorist.
Right.
It's cool. I mean, I'm just sad. It's just a short season, but
yeah, I mean, I wonder if this is going to be a show where we get maybe like another season of it.
This one feels like
because it seems like they're doing a slow burn. And since there are not really any theatrical movies that are going to tie in directly to these characters, right, or these events coming up, it actually would make sense to continue their story in another 6 episodes or whatever it's going to be. So we may not get, just prepare everybody right now. I mean, we don't know, but I'm mentally preparing for the fact that when this 6th episode is over, that we may not get all of the resolution that we think we're going to get.
Another thing that was really interesting about this episode is the way Zemo starts the scene with Bucky, where he says his like trigger words. and he's like, he tells him like it's still in there somewhere,
Yeah, he's
you
like, there's still a
know?
little something left in there.
Yeah, and I feel like that can potentially go somewhere by the end of the 6th episode. Like maybe he gets activated, you know? We have seen his character going through therapy. You know, he's not really that, it doesn't seem like he's 100% rehabilitated, right? And then he gets the therapy taken away from him. So you have to think, okay, he's in a vulnerable position. And then now Zemo comes in, tries to trigger him, tells him he needs to act this part. We
Yeah.
see him throw down in the bar. You know, Sam asks him, like, you okay, man?
Yeah.
And he's just like, yeah, like, and then he goes off. So I feel like that's going to go somewhere. And that was a really interesting part of the episode for me.
I mean, I love that shit.
I was like, yeah. And then he's like, what are you reading? He's like, Machiavelli. And it's like, what are you up to?
yeah.
What Machiavellian like shit are you up to?
Yeah, and I mean, and then when he hones in on Nakajima, he's like, "Oh, I get all of these names, but this one seems very important. What is the importance of Nakajima?" And then like Bucky loses his shit. Yeah, that dude is like a master manipulator. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
exactly.
I mean, the whole episode is him just like basically mind effing people, because he makes it seem like he's gonna run, and then he just wins over their trust a little more by coming back and saving their asses.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Zemo is a great villain. I love how what's his name, Daniel Brühl plays him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Another Sokovian, by the way.
Yeah. I was trying to find the speech that he gives about symbols.
Oh, in the episode where he's
Like like the actual text, which I thought was really well written.
I mean, this show is the writing is great, and again the composition of the music is, I love it. It's so good. So good.
It's like even though the dialogue is so simple, it has like every word has so much weight to it. And that's kind of like how WandaVision was too, you know? The words were really simple, the script was simple, but we know so much of the backstory and they tie it in just so greatly. And I think that's what these two shows have done so well so far. Just give us so much story in such little words.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens next week.
One thing we probably won't be seeing anytime soon are the two movies that are now officially off the DC slate. Ava DuVernay's New Gods, James Wan's The Trench are now not moving forward at Warner Brothers. And I know this caused a bit of a stir on social media because right away everybody's, oh, Warner Brothers doesn't know what they're doing. This is because of the Snyder cut, or it's not because of the Snyder. I've seen both. People saying that they should split DC Films off and do like a Marvel situation where DC Films reports the heads of AT&T as opposed to Warner Brothers, and so on and so forth. I mean, at the end of the bottom line is these are two movies that have been in development now for 3 years and have not moved past the development stages. So it's not crazy that they're not moving forward because they haven't moved forward, right? You don't these days, you don't need to develop a movie for 3 years. So obviously, I think this was a long time coming. These were two movies that I know New Gods definitely, that were greenlit under Walter Hamada, right? When he took over. So, he is now pulling the plug. They're pulling the plug on them. Look, these things happen. I think this is a byproduct of the fact that we know too much these days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for movies to be in development that we never, I mean, look, you had Tim Burton's Superman, right? Superman Lives. You had that James Cameron Spider-Man film that was a thing at one point, right? I mean, we've seen you had J.J. Abrams' Superman Flyby, and you had Wolfgang Petersen's original
BVS.
Batman versus Superman, and you had George Miller's Justice League, and
Right.
all of these things that just never happened, right? I mean, so now I think that we know too much and we're too invested in some of this stuff, so it seems like a really big deal when something like this happens, but it really isn't in
I
the
mean,
scheme of things.
just stack it on the pile of Batgirl, Nightwing, all of these other
Yeah.
films that were like announced in development, whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I know the New Gods one people were really excited about.
Yes.
I'm bummed out about that one.
Yes.
The Trench not so much because I'm like, man, whatever. It's a bunch
Yeah,
of
that
like,
was
like,
that
a,
seemed
bun- a
like
bunch
it
of
was
like dying sea creatures. Okay,
Yeah, that
Yes.
seemed like it was a kind of a gift to James Wan.
sure.
You know, like, yeah, we'll
I mean, isn't he
plus-
working on like Aquaman too?
exactly, and he and
I think like everything gets amplified on social media, right? And like people got to make sensations and news headlines out of anything, really anything. Whereas like in like the studio said, if these projects ever start up again, they're still theirs, you know? Ava's going to pick it up, you know, James Wan's going to pick it up. They still are going to helm these projects if they ever come to play. But it's just a regular day for someone in the office, you know? It's like, all right, like those things didn't go through. We're going to move on to something else. If they come back, yeah, you got it. It's like normal. It's not as sensationalized as everyone on social media makes things. Like you could find like a pizza on like the track and it's like going to be like blown up into like, oh my God, radioactive pizza. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
What? Radioactive pizza? You lost me there.
I'm just saying, like,
I was like, what?
I'm just saying that things on social media get amplified, right? So like if you're on a platform, you see a slice of pizza on the tracks, you're not going to think anything about it because it's New York City. It's a slice of pizza. Who cares? If you were like trying to find an angle or write an article, then you might be like, oh my God, like why was the pizza on the track? And like it, you know, the cheese looked kind of weird. And you might like make something up to make it more sensationalized. And like, not that anyone's making anything up, but you know what I'm saying? Like once it's online, they got to make it sound like it's news. Whereas people in the studio,
like this shit happens all the time.
It happens all that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, I mean,
worst analogy ever.
Like radioactive pizza? What?
Holy
shit.
Don't cancel me.
Yeah.
Banana is canceled.
Yeah, I mean, look, these movies have been in development for 3 years and they're moving on with other projects. And supposedly the Flash movie is going to like be this huge like reset and they're going to try to start syncing things up. Supposedly we've heard all this.
Oh, you make the universe.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, but clearly it doesn't fit into what their plans are now 3 years later. And I keep emphasizing that 3 years because a lot changes in 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, we've gotten Zack Snyder's Justice League. So like a lot of things change and you never know. You know, to talk about for a second though, the thing with like splitting DC films off and stuff like that. I think first of all, it's an interesting concept, but let's remember though why and how Marvel Studios got to the point where Kevin Feige reported directly to the heads of Disney rather than the heads of Marvel Entertainment.
Right.
And it's because he made them $1 gazillion and established a long-term pattern of success.
Right.
And he was at odds, right, with the heads of Marvel Entertainment. And it basically was a battle. He said, okay, it's either me or them. And they said, well, you. So they basically said, okay, you're gonna just report right to the heads of Disney. And at this point, Marvel Entertainment is like, I mean, Marvel Television doesn't exist anymore. Essentially, it's all been given to Marvel Studios and all of that stuff and Disney Plus. So I think that was the other part of it. There were specific reasons for why that move happened.
There was no Feige over at DC.
It had nothing to do with the idea that they thought that it would be more productive if Feige reported directly to the heads of Disney. It's kind of what he wanted. And they said, well, we pretty much have to give him what
Yeah.
he wants. This isn't that,
Yeah.
you know.
It's funny, man. We've I think so many times folks have talked about like, oh, DC really needs a Kevin Feige. Sure. I mean,
Technically anybody could use somebody that,
Yeah.
that's a Kevin Feige, right? Like,
yeah.
you need a visionary. You need someone who like, knows how to play hardball. I mean, I'd like to think that, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are the Kevin Feige for Star Wars television. We'll see how that all translate into the future films. But I mean, I think maybe that's the problem. It's not a Kevin Feige. It's just leadership.
Yes,
really.
that's what
Yeah.
because
you know,
Someone that can like streamline.
Someone has a vision,
direction.
someone that knows what they want to do. It says, look, I have this idea, I've got this plan, and I'm going to execute this, and like it's going to make you a shit ton of money if we stick to, it's like, here are all of the elements that are going to make this thing an amazing franchise. There isn't, and I don't think there's anyone over there. It might just be the culture of the company, of the studio, and now now it's reporting up into a major media conglomerate. It may never happen. You know what I mean? Could Christopher Nolan have been that person? Maybe, but he's not. But he's an auteur. You know what I mean? He's that's not his thing.
Yeah, he didn't want to make a sequel to Batman Begins.
Yeah,
like he was just like, no, it's not his deal.
Could it have been Zack Snyder?
Yeah. Well, see, for me, and it's not even anything against Zack Snyder. I just don't think a director is the person
right.
Guide that. So Kevin Feige's a producer; he's not a director.
That's right.
While I do think there are certain, like Jon Favreau's a director, but I think Jon Favreau's in a unique position where he can do both.
Jon Favreau's a director. He's a writer. He's a producer. Like the dude is a man of everything. Renaissance man.
And Zack Snyder's a director with a very specific vision, right? A unique vision and a specific vision. And sometimes those people actually are not the best people to guide something, because it's his vision is so specific,
right,
that it's very difficult to unify things under that unless he's the one directing all the movies and writing, which is an impossible task to ask anybody to do. So yeah, I mean, I do think that. And, let's remember Walter Hamada, ironically enough, was brought on board because he had a reputation for making movies
on the cheap
that turned out to be box office hits.
That's right.
So let's not forget that. And that was something that was appealing to Warner Brothers at the time. That's why Shazam happened, right? And I think that, if anything, that's your major criticism, right, of Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers has not really done well with these properties forever because they really don't have a trust in them. They bail out way too quickly, and they want to change directions way too quickly. And so I think in that sense, yes, I get it. Like, you maybe want somebody running DC Films that doesn't have to answer to Warner Brothers because they have a bad reputation of bouncing back and forth. And, but that's where, when you say a Feige, right, a Kevin Feige, you need somebody who's a leader, who's going to be able to set the vision, communicate the vision, and then put people in positions to see that vision through.
Right.
And that's really what you need. You're going to need somebody to go in there who's going to be able to grab Warner Brothers by the throat and say, this is how we're going to do this. You have to just stick with it.
Yeah.
And let's build it. I mean, look, Marvel Phase 1, aside from Iron Man, didn't set the world on fire until Avengers. And then from there, it's just been success after success after success.
I mean, those movies did not make a shit ton of money.
No, I mean, and again, it's a little different because like China international markets weren't as established then, but like, Incredible Hulk, it's like the forgotten film. I mean, Captain America First Avenger, I love, but it didn't light up the box office.
No.
Thor, same thing. And I mean, Iron Man was huge. That was a shock.
Yeah. But the thing is, when you look back on those films, like, they're well-made films. You know what I mean? They're, I think, and then the other thing too, outside of like Iron Man 2, but they weren't like relying on like, we got to set the stage for the next.
Right. Because they didn't really know exactly where they were going. I mean, they were inventing that model as
Yeah.
that's like
Mhm.
when people say like, I'm a big, punk rock guy, and people are like, the Ramones didn't know they were inventing punk rock or that style of punk rock, or the Sex Pistols, those early punk bands, didn't know that that's what they were just doing, what came natural to them and what seemed to fit.
Right.
And then everyone after that was trying to fit into a specific mold, right? Of being
Right.
like a punk band or whatever. The same thing here. Like, even if you look at those phase one films, like they have different feels. Like Captain America, the First Avenger is a period piece, that feels different. And Thor
Right.
is kind of a weird hybrid thing.
But it has that like regality to it.
Yeah, and Hulk and all of, but could you imagine though, like if at the time it was Paramount, actually, right?
Yeah, yeah, that had the Hulk.
Yeah,
And Iron, yeah, they were the
that
distributing
was
studio.
distributors of these Marvel films. Imagine if the heads of Paramount at the time had been like, you know what? Now this movie underperformed. We're just gonna blow it up and go in a completely different direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's essentially what happened, like here with Warner Brothers. And I mean, so you are going to need that person who is able to have that confidence. And I get it, like Hulk, Captain America, Thor, that's not Batman, Superman. One, I understand that. So maybe your expectations are going to be a little different, but still somebody's going to need to be able to kind of sell this if this is the
Yeah.
way they really want to do it, or else you're going to get these stops and starts, and you're going to get well, we're going to go director creator driven and give you different stories that are
Right.
just
And
good
everything's going to feel
stories.
desperate from one another. Like,
Yeah, or we're going to try again to unite everything and have it all connect, or blah, and it's just like after a while it's not going to, like, the audience is going to be like, what is happening here? So at some point they do need to decide on a vision, whatever that vision is, whether it's a shared universe like the MCU, or whether it's creator driven stories that just tell good stories, like a Joker type of thing or whatever, to maximize or standalone, like Matt Reeves, the Batman stuff. Is it going to just be like these? What is the vision going to be for this? And just go with it.
right.
Just stop jumping and in and out and start and restart, because it gets frustrating after a while. And I can certainly understand why the fan base would be frustrated with that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, these next round of films will give us a sense of where they're going, because right now you've got Shazam, you have Aquaman, well, Shazam 2, Aquaman, Black Adam.
Black Adam seems like the big thing that they're
Yeah, I mean that's who's that's who's attached to it and promoting it. I mean, the funny thing about this, and kind of getting back to how we got to this topic in the first place, it's funny because New Gods, specifically New Gods, that was one that was like always on the slate, and then at one point, I think it was after DC Fandom, Black Adam was like not on the slate anymore for a hot second, and then now it's like boom, like nope, we're gonna reprioritize and focus on that, and it makes sense. I mean, you gotta strike while the iron is hot, and the hot iron right now is Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, look, you had Wonder Woman 84, you got the Suicide Squad coming out, right?
Wonder Woman.
We know there's going to be the sequel to Shazam, there's going to be Black Adam, there's going to be a sequel to Aquaman, and we know we're going to get whatchamacallit, the Batman, right?
Mhm.
But now the Batman though doesn't connect to, so Shazam is still kind of part of this universe and still could become a bigger part of that shared universe if with a couple tweaks.
Right.
And we would assume Black Adam fits into that too, right? Somehow.
Yep.
And obviously the Suicide Squad we don't know how exactly it ties in, but clearly it's using Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn and a couple other characters that we've seen before already. So there's a connection there. And the Flash, we know obviously is the Ezra Miller, and it's the connection there. So the Batman with Matt Reeves is the only thing thus far that doesn't seem to connect. So, I mean, they certainly could do like a shared universe, maybe with some of those other characters.
Mhm.
And then, you maybe just keep Batman. I don't, who knows?
Use the Flash to pluck any kind of multiverse Batman from his place and drop him off.
Right. And that could be the Batman. But now, do you want to have two Batmen.
No, but technically, like his Batman may not be a thing anymore.
Who's Batman?
Ezra Miller's Batman is.
Oh,
Ben,
they mean the
Ben
one who's
Affleck.
going to be in the Flash.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's
Mm.
possible. Sure.
Who knows?
You don't have to have Batman. Batman does not have to exist
No.
for them to have a.
But you know,
distributed-
Warner Brothers and
course, they
Batman.
can't.
You know, they cannot stay away from
No.
him.
That's their. That's
That
their
is their
crutch.
golden boy.
Until he
They,
is.
I mean, they because you can do all. I mean, they've done so much with Batman.
Yeah. It's
You
their
know, they've-
golden boy until McDonald's says we can't sell Happy Meals, and then you blow up the entire franchise for it, and then don't revisit it again for
There you go.
years. Yeah.
Sure.
But
Sure.
yeah, I mean, Batman has almost been, it's been too much of a crutch for them because it's taken away from, they just keep
They
going
just-
back to that
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We shall see.
We
Yes.
shall see.
All right.
What else we got?
I mean,
You want to talk?
Nothing.
You want to talk trailers, or you want to talk
Yeah,
about
let's talk-
that?
let's-
Or that $450 million deal
oh yeah. So
with
Netflix.
yeah.
Yeah, Netflix signed a deal for $450 million or so. Well, they said 400 plus, and it came out that it was about 450 million to acquire the rights to Knives Out 2 and 3, which is extraordinary. And just an idea of like how much these streaming services are willing to pay to acquire films like this. I mean, the first Knives Out was a hit, right?
Yeah.
And did well. It I think it had like a $40 million budget, and it made 310 something like that,
Movie
300
was-
plus million worldwide.
I actually really like that movie.
Yeah, but I think people are like, well, wait a minute, the first movie only cost 40 million. Why did they pay 200 plus million dollars for each of these films? It's like, well, they're not just paying. It's not just production costs, right? They're also going to be marketing this film. They're
Mhm.
also going to be, there's a lot that go. They also needed to get the rights to it.
Right.
Right, in
And
order
I'm
to
guessing
happen.
The
they've
actors.
already seen or read a treatment for
Right.
this film because Ryan Johnson, I believe, was already working on it.
Sure. And this is a project that probably has more value
Mhm.
to Netflix than it might have in theaters at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of tailor made for that. But yeah, I mean, that's the going rate now. If you're going to try to compete, you want to take those movies away from these studios. I mean, you're going to have to fork it over. So,
Right.
right. I mean, this is why when people say like, oh, something like a Snyderverse, or whatever, or Zack Snyder can't make his Justice League movies because they'll never, I mean, look, they could cough up that money if they felt like there was value.
Mm.
Clearly, if you can get $450 million we were talking about $450 million for 2 Justice League movies last week. How about $450 million for 2 Knives Out films? All of a sudden, that seems like a bargain for Justice League movies.
Right.
So, I mean, who knows? I
Yeah.
mean, at this point, geez, if I'm Warner Brothers, I'm like, wait a minute, maybe we'll sell the rights to Justice League 2 and 3 to somebody and get $700 million for it and
Yeah.
call it a day. I mean, not that would happen, but the point is there's money being thrown around right now, and it's serious money in these streaming wars. So take advantage of it.
That's crazy. I saw Knives Out on the plane on a little itty bitty screen.
What'd you think?
I thought it was okay, but I think it was because I saw it on a little itty bitty screen in a loud airplane.
Yeah. I watched it again. I
Yeah.
watched it twice.
I was oddly disappointed with it, but I think that's mainly because of the fact that I just had the wrong impression of what I thought that movie was going to be.
Same.
And it wasn't at all. I thought it was going to be more comedic. I thought that because the trailers were kind of funny and comedic and stuff, and it
Like-
just wasn't that.
No, it was not.
I thought it was going to be a more like a higher end
Clue.
like Clue.
Clue. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
not.
wasn't. No.
No.
Which
Yeah.
is
But it was a great. It's been a long time since we've been treated with a good old whodunit
yeah.
type movie.
Yeah.
Outside of like, I don't want to. I guess maybe the Sherlock Holmes, the Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, but those
Sherlock
really
Holmes,
weren't.
but they're
Those
not
were
really
just more
that.
like action movies.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like more superhero-ish.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, we've had now like Murder on the Orient Express, and they're remaking, doing another
what is the next one? Murder on the Nile or something like that?
Death on the Nile.
Death
Yeah.
on the Nile with our good old friend Armie Hammer.
Oh well.
No, not anymore.
No.
Maybe that's why he's not Batman.
Well,
oh shit!
They're like,
let's just
they're
say-
like, we went from people eating bats to now bats eating people. No, we can't do that.
boy,
Yeah.
probably better that he didn't, regardless of what the reasons were.
Holy shit! They go from Johnny Depp to this dude in that franchise. Who owns that? I think Disney owns that now.
If what they say about him is true, like,
He's being dropped from films.
yeah, he got dropped from his agency. But if what they're saying about him is true, he's like our American Psycho. Like he would be like the Christian Bale, like American Psycho. Just someone tall, super good looking. Like he can convince you to do anything, and if he's like into all that kind of stuff. Then he's like,
stomp on my balls.
Yeah, or like I want to eat you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like cut me a little sliver.
Like that's scary.
That's creepy shit.
Yeah, that's
creepy.
next level creep. Like that stuff you'd like, nah, it doesn't really. You see that in movies, but you're like, all right, well, that's like a real fringe element of society.
Yeah.
Here we got like the Lone Rangers doing it. It's like
it's also
wait, the
like,
Lone Ranger who was with the wife beater who played a Native American. How funny is that? I bet they had some wild times, those two guys.
It's a good thing nobody's revisiting that film anyway.
I know. It's like Zac Efron playing what's his face?
Dahmer. Was it Dahmer?
No. In that like wickedly vile whatever movie he was playing the serial killer.
Wasn't it Jeffrey Dahmer?
No.
Zac
Ted
Efron
Bundy?
Jeffrey Dahmer?
Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy.
Yeah. It's like, well, you're good looking. You just convinced all of these women to do what you wanted to, you know.
No.
Yeah,
just like, yeah, crazy.
So yeah.
All right, so Knives Out.
Yeah. Not with Armie Hammer. With Daniel Craig and apparently new cast, completely new cast. Some people were thinking that maybe they'd bring over some of the actors or whatever for the next ones or the characters, but they've announced that no, they're not. It's pretty much just going to be him,
that's
and
cool.
that's that. So yeah.
You know what? We had game night.
Oh, the movie you're talking about.
That was kind of like a whodunit.
That was like not a good whodunit at all.
I wanted game night too.
No.
I really love that.
That movie is not that funny.
Did you watch it in theaters?
No, I didn't watch it.
Oh God, it was
not that funny.
hilarious in theaters.
Uh-huh.
See, the theater and the home experience, sometimes it ruins, like it
or
really
has the opposite effect, actually.
It really that can too, but
because I've been in movies where like nobody in the audience was laughing like at anything, and it just kind of took me out of the movie. So
or when they laugh at
everyone
dumbass shit and you're like, what the hell are you laughing at?
That's
not funny.
Everyone in the theater, like we were laughing every 10-20 seconds.
I gotta think about a movie that I've actually been in where like a recent one where I was laughing my ass off, and it's kind of hard for me to put my finger on.
I think sometimes it's hard to do that at home. Like I also feel like Coming to America too. If you were like in a theater full of people laughing, I think it would have made that movie funnier.
Oh no.
Yes.
See, no way. See, I'm a person that's like I'm stuck in my ways, right? So like if I don't think it's funny and everyone's laughing, like ain't nothing wrong with me. Something's wrong with all y'all. Like that's how I'd be like, hell, y'all laughing at that shit is not funny in hell. No, it is not
Aaron
funny.
Being agitated, even
100%, dude. People be like laughing, crying, and shit.
Yeah. He would have looked at Coming to America hostile.
That's so Larry David of you.
I'm like, what the heck is wrong with all of you? It's not that funny. Get the hell out of here.
My opinion.
Yeah.
You know what movie I thought was funny? Oh man, it was on Netflix. Oh God. Kumail Nanjiani and
Oh, The Big Sick.
no,
Oh,
no, no.
no. Oh, I know what you're talking about with what's her name, and they're like a couple, and then
Yes, yes.
yeah. Oh,
I
what was
thought
that
that movie
called?
was hilarious.
That movie was great,
That movie was I was
and
crying
that
with
came out in the
laughter.
beginning of the pandemic. It was like one of the first movies that
Yeah,
like we
I
could like look forward to.
laughed my ass off. That movie was mad funny.
He was really fun. The Lovebirds
That was so good.
with Issa Rae.
Yeah, that movie was so good.
Yeah. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, to me that was funnier than game night. I called. See, the thing was a game night. I called it. I called the whole thing.
Who cares? It's still funny.
Yeah, but you know what? That's the thing about whodunit films is that if you're gonna do it and you want to be funny about it, like I'm still invested. Like it's great that it's funny, but like the mystery of it is also important, right? You got to strike that balance. If I figure it out,
That's true.
then the funny shit ain't really that funny to me. Like Knives Out was, it wasn't meant to be funny, but it literally legit had me spinning like, oh, who could it be? Like,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Yeah. Oh,
anyways,
let's see. So we're all going to get together and go to a comedy with Aaron in the theaters just to.
oh, I love stand-up comedy.
Well, that's.
Oh, well, not stand-up, but yeah, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the last
We'll find a debatably funny film.
funny movie I've
leave
seen
Hostel
in theater.
If people find it hysterical.
I'm trying to think of something I saw funny recently.
I see. The thing is, as much as I love comedy, and it's probably my favorite genre, like at the end of the day, I don't go to theaters to see straight up comedies very often because usually like those aren't like event film. Like it's not a film that's going to get me to go to a theater.
Yeah.
So like I haven't seen. It's been a while since I've seen like a.
I think I'm in the same boat, bro.
Theater. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm in the same boat. I think that's exactly what it is. Like, and I like the genre films that are including comedy in it. You know?
Oh,
what I mean?
sure, that's different. But yeah.
Like something like Blockers.
Right.
I
I wish I saw Blockers in the theater.
Yes. Yeah.
Because Blockers was like, we've talked about this probably like four different episodes, but like Blockers caught me so off guard with how funny it was. I literally choked.
Yeah.
I was literally choking. Like, if I had asthma, I'd need a pump. It was that fun.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like the Suicide Squad may have the potential to do that.
I was just gonna say that
because it's James Gunn and
it's not a comedy though, so it's an event film that I'll go to see in the theater probably.
No.
And
watch that.
and we already saw some of the funny bits with like John Cena and like just some of those outrageous lines that he had.
Here's the thing about stuff like that is there needs to be more funny shit if you're gonna sell funny stuff in your trailer. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna put that joke in the trailer, you better be bringing some heat with some other stuff. Because I would have cried my ass off if I heard John Cena said, "If this beach was full of dicks, I'd be eating them all."
Yeah. Even King Shark.
Yeah.
Has some like where he was like hand, and they're just like all annoyed. Like those bits are really funny.
Yeah. Although that kind of reminded me of Groot.
That's true.
But it's interesting you mentioned that. Before we get out of here, I do want to note that they released the Green Band trailer, which is what's going to be like in theaters, for the Suicide Squad, and it is a very different trailer. It's different, like in tone. It's different in every way, shape, or form, and a lot of people prefer it. And James Gunn actually said the reason why he did it that way. He said, "Well, if I'm going to release two trailers, what's the point of making them the exact same thing?"
Yeah.
Like, he goes, the same people are pretty much going to be watching both versions of it. So why not give them something different? And my thought was, thank you. Like
who the audience, dude.
Because how many times do we get like trailer 1, trailer 2, trailer 3, and like the differences are a matter of like maybe one little clip.
We literally just got that with the new Black Widow trailer.
No.
Right?
No.
It's
most of it is new. Most of that trailer is new.
Yeah, but
and new, like as in like whole, like to me, and maybe it's because I haven't seen a Black Widow trailer in forever.
Yeah,
like in a year.
It was. Don't get me wrong. It was super dope.
But like legit, I saw that trailer and I was like, I gotta go to the theater, and I'm getting my shot tomorrow, my first one.
Yay!
Hell yay!
Yay!
Little dance. All right. But like, yeah, that Black Widow trailer. And I think the reason why I dug it was because I loved the tie to the Infinity Saga.
Mm-hmm.
I love that because like it almost, to me, I'm like, oh, is she coming back? Like, like how are we doing this now? Because before I thought it was just like a quick story, like here's what happened between these moments, and I don't like, now it's got my like, speculative tinfoil hat going. And then there was some of the action sequences with the Taskmaster that we haven't seen at all.
On with the airplane and them like in the air.
That scene was dope, where he's got the sword and he's just dragging that shit down.
Exactly.
Or just like how badass his costume looks. The guy whispers in his ear, he's like, bring her home.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, this dude is no joke.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You got a point.
And then what's his name? David Harbour's character, where he's talking about his girls, and then he like does the crazy like flexing thing. There was a little more to it than I remember. Because I feel like the other trailers have been like so cookie cutter and just the same shit, where she like meets her sister or whatever.
Right.
And they had that conversation. This time it was like they mirrored each other. Where you see them kind of do the same thing, and then they're holding the gun and they look at each other.
We saw that though in the other trailers.
Did we?
Yeah, we did. We did.
Like I said, ages ago.
We saw that. You got that part of the story, the Taskmaster stuff, and I think it showed us a little bit of like how the action was going to look in this one.
Yeah.
But I think like in terms of the story with the family and her sister, like that part all felt like, okay, I already knew this.
Yeah, and the biggest holy shit moment is that the entire score for the trailer is the Avengers theme.
Right. Right.
I know Davo's like, oh, Aaron, you love Marvel. Oh man, you just cup it.
It's so good.
But like, but dude, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just, I don't know, those things like Marvel just knows how to pull the right chains for me.
They do. Yeah.
They really do. They get me super excited about just. I mean, that's the thing. It gets me really excited about just like literally going to a theater or watching one of these movies is like opening up a fresh comic book and reading something really dope.
And not only that, but that's why like even something like the use of the Avengers theme, right, in the trailer, like it's such an established brand at this point.
Yeah.
And people, the idea of the Marvel film has become such a cultural thing now that like throwing that theme in there, like it's immediate. People immediately make that connection.
Yeah.
And immediately understand exactly what's happening. And look, that's what they've managed. That's why what they've managed to do. And I'm not saying everybody has to do it, and I'm not saying everybody should do it, but what they've managed to do with their characters and their universe is something that really should be admired. And just because people want to, say, oh, it's not they haven't taken a lot of chances. Okay, that's fine, but that's not what they're trying to do. Yeah, well, right, and we can get into that, and I would debate that anyway. But just on the surface, what they're doing is they're making mainstream entertainment that's for multi-generational mainstream entertainment that has become pop culture events, a phenomenon, and that is something that is really cool. And they did it based on a bunch of comic book characters, and many of whom most people didn't care about 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one other thing I'll point out is I love how it pulled out. It's got the, with the Black Widow logo, but it has like Natasha walking.
Mm-hmm.
She's got that swagger, and it reminds me of like the feeling you get when you see Bond walking across the screen.
Yeah.
Love that shit. Love that. I love that spy. I love that spy vibe. I think that's a nice touch.
Yeah.
So,
well, on that note,
you guys don't
Pink
want to.
out.
All right.
Wait,
what else? What?
Well, there were 2 other trailers that came out.
Yeah, first of all, we're not talking about Space Jam because that is hot dumpster fire.
Yeah.
That
Just-
Space Jam trailer was offensive.
Just a mention.
Holy shit, that's so bad. I literally watched it and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely not watching LeBron James try to act his way to find his son. I'm sorry.
No one can replace Jordan.
And there goes my green screen.
Okay.
Aaron is so passionate
I'm
about
getting lit.
All right. There was the Bad Batch trailer.
That's pretty dope. That's
Yeah.
Star Wars. I'll love that all day.
So I know you love Star Wars. So
All day, every day.
we can mention that. I think it looks really cool. I haven't seen any of the like animated Star Wars stuff.
Oh, for real?
For real.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
for
need
real.
you need to get into that.
But after seeing that trailer, I was like, ooh, I need to like start from the beginning.
You gotta watch Clone Wars.
And get on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well,
we'll
no,
just-
and then Fennec's in there. So what's her? Oh God, I'm gonna butcher her name. What's her name? Wing Na Men.
Oh, Ming-Na Wen.
Yeah,
Ming-Na Wen. Mm-hmm.
So her character from The Mandalorian is in the show. Is in the Bad Batch.
It's so dope. I know. All right, so that's a mention.
Again,
And then
Star Wars, cup it.
and then you guys just need to see Aaron pretend that he's like licking balls.
Hey, they don't need to see if they're tuning into the show visually.
YouTube
You
is
got
like-
it, but man, Banana blew me up.
I
YouTube-
smell a t-shirt coming.
YouTube is like the after hours version.
I know it's literally it's gonna be like Marvel cup it.
Yeah, literally.
It's just gonna be a hand with Marvel with the biggest pair of balls you've ever seen in your life.
Oh God. All right. And then
We can use the M as the sack.
oh no. All right. It's either we get out of here or Chris, I know
Yeah.
you wanted to mention
No,
briefly
no.
how the Tina Turner documentary did.
Oh, yeah.
Or
Yeah,
we
the
can
only
get out of
reason
here.
why I wanted to mention is just because it's for those of you we're trying to quantify like streaming numbers and all that stuff. This Tina Turner documentary that I don't even know was a thing debuted on HBO and HBO Max last weekend and did like 1.1 million views that Saturday night that it debuted.
That's
Okay, which
nuts.
is the biggest documentary premiere ever in HBO Max, HBO history. And just to put some context to that, right? Because
Mhm.
everyone's kind of losing their stuff over like how many people view these HBO Max shows and these streaming shows and all that stuff. And like we've seen these numbers, 1.8 million, 2.2 million for the first, opening 3 days or whatever, or 4 days or 5 days of Wonder Woman and Justice League, and everybody's going back and forth and what's like a huge hit, what isn't a huge hit, and all of that stuff. So I figured I thought that was interesting context.
Yeah.
Oh,
1.1 million views on just one Saturday
Yeah.
night.
Yeah, Tina takes it for the win
Tina.
Hey.
All right.
All right.
because she's
Okay.
rolling
So Aaron's
rolling
going
down the
All
river.
right.
So that's when you got to put him to bed.
Yeah. Aaron needs to go to bed. All
Rolling
right.
down the river.
either
Oh, look at that! I stopped turning pink. Rolling down the river.
On that note, if you still care, go to thefanboygarage.com, check out our episodes, our merch, and I'm sure there's going to be some new merch coming up soon based on this episode. And of course, you can join the conversation on social media, the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitter at the Fanboy Garage, and our YouTube channel, so you can see more of these fantastic moments that only Aaron Varola can bring to the table.
Oh,
And
boy.
you can see the cupping and the dancing,
No.
all these things that are so important. You can do that at the Fanboy Garage podcast. Subscribe to that channel as well. And you can find me on Twitter at Real C Almighty.
You guys can tweet me at Vanessa_TFG. And you know what? I'm going to throw my Instagram in here because I'm usually on Instagram, and it's at Vanessa_Bontea.
Cool. And you can find me on Twitter at @Ron Speaks. That is _Ron Speaks. It's hot in here. Damn, look at me. I'm burning up in here.
All that
Woo.
dancing.
Oh, all that dancing. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to episode 138 of the Fanboy Garage. We will catch you guys next week. Later.